Okay, so today we're going to talk about Christmas, but probably not in the way you're used to. We're diving into a really unique vision of the holiday, and it comes straight from a 1980 sermon by the Reverend Sun Myung Moon. And, well, this theological framework pretty much aims to redefine the entire purpose of Christmas. So let's explore this pretty unconventional take.
So, right off the bat, the sermon hits you with this pretty startling idea that Christmas, this day of joy and celebration, is actually the result of a huge failure. I mean, think about that. That one sentence just completely flips the script on what the holiday traditionally means, and it really sets the stage for a totally different story. All right, so if Christmas is the result of a failure, that begs the question, right? What was the original plan? What was success supposed to look like? To really get the logic here, we've got to first understand the sermon's vision of God's perfect intended world. So, in this original ideal, picture a world with no sin, no separation from God at all. Adam and Eve, their whole purpose was to create this perfect family line that would just grow and grow to fill the whole planet. And in a world like that, well, you wouldn't need a savior, would you? Which means Christmas just wouldn't have been a thing. It never would have needed to happen. But that ideal was shattered, and the sermon frames the human fall as something way bigger than just a personal sin. We're talking a cosmic catastrophe. The argument is that Satan basically seized control of, well, everything, every level of human life. He created a world under his own thumb and totally cut off humanity's connection to God. And that is what kicked off the need for a massive rescue mission. And that rescue mission? Well, it began with the Messiah. So this next part of the sermon really dives into the role of Jesus and what it presents as the first big attempt to fix this whole problem of the fall. From this point of view, the Messiah's whole job is to be a liberator. And the goal isn't just about saving individuals one by one. No, it's about reclaiming an entire nation to act as God's sort of beachhead in this fallen world. From there, the idea was he could save all of humanity. And this was no spur-of-the-moment plan. The source text really emphasizes the huge scale of this thing, saying that God spent 4,000 years meticulously preparing the nation of Israel just so they'd be ready to unite with the Messiah and get this mission done. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This slide shows how one of Jesus' most famous teachings gets completely reinterpreted. The sermon argues that love your enemies isn't some absolute moral law. Instead, it's a temporary strategy, something you do when the godly side is weak. The implication is once you're strong enough, the time for turning the other cheek is over, and it's time to go on the offensive.
And here's the crucial turning point. According to this sermon, the mission failed. Because the people of Israel didn't rally behind Jesus, he couldn't build that national foundation he needed to reclaim the world. So his crucifixion didn't actually complete the mission. Instead, it just left the door open for what's called a second opportunity.
So where does this second opportunity happen? Well, the sermon argues that the whole stage shifts from the ancient world to the modern one, and it pinpoints 1980s America as the new central battlefield in this cosmic war.
And why America? The text says it's because America is a nation made up of all people. It's a global nation. That makes it uniquely set up to pull off a world-level mission, something Israel, as a nation for one people, couldn't do. In this view, America is chosen not just to save itself, but to pave the way for saving the whole world.
But, of course, if America is God's chosen nation for this era, it's also Satan's #1 target. The sermon lists these specific social problems from back then as Satan's ultimate weapons, all designed to tear America apart from the inside and stop it from fulfilling its global destiny. Okay, so we've looked at the original plan, the fall, the first attempt to fix things, and the modern battlefield. Now the sermon gets to what it sees as the ultimate solution, the role and the mission of the unification church. So the end goal here isn't just called salvation, it's called recreation. This isn't about just getting into heaven when you die. It's about a complete restoration of humanity, bringing us all the way back to that original, unfallen state. It's about building that perfect family, what the sermon calls the four-position foundation, with God, husband, wife, and kids, right here on earth. And to pull off a goal that huge, the sermon says you need a new kind of messianic figure. It actually describes this person as a kind of Superman, who's capable of tackling all these massive, modern, global problems at once and leading this work of recreation. No, this big cosmic vision has some very specific, very personal consequences. So, what does the sermon actually demand from an individual who decides to walk this path? What's the price of restoring heaven?
The sermon really frames it like this. What does a person have to do to prove, once and for all, that they are completely free from Satan's control and are totally on God's side?
And this quote just nails the answer. It's not about just saying you believe. It's about earning a diploma through a trial by fire, by going through impossible situations to prove where your loyalty really lies. And that trial isn't just some abstract idea. The sermon lays out these concrete, universal requirements for every single follower. These are incredibly demanding tasks, and they're designed to strip away all those worldly attachments and forge a new identity, one that's completely dedicated to this mission of restoration.
And this all brings us right back to where we started, Christmas. In this framework, the holiday is totally transformed. It's no longer just a memorial for a mission that was left unfinished. Instead, it becomes a celebration of hope, a day that marks the active, ongoing project of finally bringing God's original ideal back to Earth.
So, as we wrap up this look at the source text, it kind of leaves us with a bigger question to think about. When a theology isn't just seen as a set of beliefs, but as a high-stakes cosmic war for the fate of the entire world, how does that perspective fundamentally change the commitment, the actions, and the sacrifices it can inspire in people?